Well, here's a $60 million question. Why is the U.S. losing so many cattle farmers and ranchers and so many mother cows during a time when the industry is making so many gains in terms of producing more with less, improving quality, and increasing exports? Now, to answer this, let's look at the period after we entered the era of globalization in a big way. And the starting point is 1994, when the U.S. entered the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA. Now, the promise then was that because 95% of the world's population lives outside the United States, what the U.S. cattle industry needs to do is open its border up to more imports, which would then cause other countries to reciprocate, and we would then have more access to beef-eating consumers abroad. And once we have that increased access abroad, U.S. cattle producers would roll in prosperity. Now, since the census came out in 2022, we'll look at the gains our industry has made by comparing where the industry was at the start of NAFTA, which is 1994, and where it was in 2022. And here are the gains. We've increased carcass weights by 17% and are now producing more beef with fewer cattle. The U.S. population increased nearly 27%, so there are many more beef eaters in the U.S. And domestic beef consumption increased by 12%. Beef demand increased 15%. And consumers have continued their willingness to pay more for beef, with all fresh retail beef prices rising 175%. Consumers paid $2.65 per pound on average in 1994, and $7.30 per pound in 2022. And the volume of cattle and beef exports increased an impressive 81%. And the total value of cattle and beef exports jumped a whopping 305%. And the per pound value of exports jumped 124%, from $1.54 per pound in 1994 to $3.45 per pound in 2022. So these all seem to be significant gains for the industry in terms of carcass weights, beef demand, consumers' perception of increased quality, more potential beef consumers in the domestic market, and increased access abroad as measured by increases in both the volume and value of exports. Now, with all these gains, you'd expect that U.S. cattle farmers and ranchers have been both profitable and prosperous over the past 28 years, which is the time span between 1994 and 2022. But that's not what happened. Even with a 17% increase in carcass weights, increased consumption, increased demand, and a huge increase in exports, domestic production from cattle born and raised in the United States increased a paltry 17%. And since NAFTA, over 280,000 cattle farmers and ranchers exited the industry, representing a 31% decline. And the U.S. beef cow herd was reduced by over 4.6 million mother cows, representing a 13% decline in cattle inventories. So what are we missing here that might help explain this counterintuitive outcome? Well, while domestic production increased a paltry 17% in the face of all the promising gains, the volume of imported cattle and beef increased nearly 26%. The volume of cattle and beef imports was over 4 billion pounds in 2022. Now, using the Beef Checkoff Program's live animal conversion factor of 592 pounds of beef to equal one live animal, the 4 billion pounds of imported beef is the equivalent of nearly 6.8 million cattle. So that means that the 4.6 million mother cows removed from our herd since NAFTA was replaced by the equivalent of nearly 6.8 million head of imported cattle in 2022. And you do know that imported cattle and beef hit an all-time record high last year in 2023, right? So when faced with a shrinking domestic industry, despite very favorable economic fundamentals, responsible industry organizations and industry analysts should be searching for the cause or causes of the problem. So where are they? Why isn't anyone from the conventional cattle and beef organizations evaluating the extent to which imported live cattle and imported beef might be reducing profitable opportunities for U.S. cattle producers? You should start asking those analysts and industry representatives whose silence has been deafening if imports are not a contributor to the ongoing shrinking of our U.S. cattle industry, then what is? Well, with that, I'm Bill Bullard with RCAF USA, the voice of the independent cattle producer in the United States of America. Have a productive week, and goodbye.